Mark, a humble mechanic, was just trying to fix a leaky engine, barely making ends meet in his small garage. He had no idea that a simple act of kindness, inviting a curious young boy to hold a flashlight, would lead to a life-changing encounter. He didn't know the boy's aunt was watching, didn't know she held the key to a national program, and certainly didn't know this moment would propel him from obscurity to becoming the face of a movement. Before we carry on, please hit the subscribe button to make my day, and let me know where you are watching from in the comments. The air in Mark's garage, a cramped, perpetually oil-stained space behind his modest home, hung thick with the familiar scent of gasoline, burnt oil, and exhaust fumes. Sunlight, fractured by grime on the single window, struggled to illuminate the disarray of tools, spare parts, and half-finished projects. Mark, a man whose hands bore the permanent grease stains of his trade and whose brow was perpetually furrowed in concentration, was currently wrestling with the stubborn carburetor of Mrs. Henderson's ancient sedan, a vehicle that seemed to defy all laws of modern engineering. His wrench slipped, scraping his knuckles, and he muttered a curse under his breath. Business had been slow, painfully slow, and every repair felt like a desperate battle against financial precarity. Suddenly, a small shadow fell across his workbench. He looked up to see a boy, no older than 7 or 8, standing tentatively in the doorway. The boy had a mop of unruly brown hair, eyes wide with a boundless curiosity, and a faint smudge of dirt on his cheek. He clutched a well-worn toy car in one hand. It was Leo, Mrs. Henderson's grandson, who often stayed with her after school. Leo was a quiet child, but his gaze always seemed to linger on Mark's garage, drawn by the mysterious sounds and smells within. "Hello there, Leo," Mark said, forcing a smile despite his frustration. He wiped his hands on a rag, leaving more grease than he removed. "Lost your way?" Leo shook his head, his eyes fixed on the partially dismantled engine. "What are you doing, Mr. Mark?" His voice was soft, barely a whisper, yet it held an undeniable spark of genuine interest. Mark hesitated. Usually, he shooed curious kids away, worried about safety hazards and distractions. But Leo's gaze was so earnest, so devoid of the usual childish impatience. He saw a flicker of something in those young eyes, something akin to his own lifelong fascination with how things worked. "I'm trying to fix this old engine, Leo," Mark explained, gesturing to the greasy hulk. "It's got a cough, like a bad cold, and it won't run right. See this part here?" He pointed to the carburetor. "It mixes the air and fuel, just like your lungs mix air when you breathe." Leo edged closer, his eyes still wide, absorbing every word. Can I help?" Mark paused, a rare smile touching his lips. "You know what, Leo? You can. I could use an extra pair of hands. Or, well, an extra set of eyes, and a steady hand for the flashlight. It gets pretty dark in here." He handed Leo a small, sturdy flashlight, its beam cutting a crisp circle of light into the gloom. Leo's face lit up, a genuine, unadulterated joy that momentarily eclipsed Mark's own worries. He held the flashlight with meticulous care, directing the beam exactly where Mark needed it. As Mark worked, he found himself explaining, not just what he was doing, but why. He talked about combustion, about pistons and cylinders, about the intricate dance of gears and belts. He used simple analogies, explaining how an engine was like a heart, pumping power, or how spark plugs were like tiny lightning bolts igniting a carefully prepared mixture. "See, Leo," Mark explained, pointing with a screwdriver, "the fuel needs oxygen to burn. It's like building a campfire. You need wood and you need air. If you don't have enough air, the fire won't get hot enough. And it'll just smoke." Leo listened intently, his small head tilted, occasionally asking a surprisingly insightful question that made Mark pause and rephrase his explanation. There was no fidgeting, no boredom, just pure, unadulterated fascination. For those few hours, as the sun dipped lower and the shadows lengthened, the cramped garage transformed into a classroom. Mark, usually solitary in his work, felt a surprising lightness in his chest. Teaching, explaining, seeing the spark of understanding ignite in Leo's eyes, was more rewarding than he had anticipated. It reminded him of his own youth, poring over mechanical manuals, dreaming of a life immersed in engines. He fixed the carburetor, the engine sputtering to life with a satisfying roar. Leo clapped, his face alight with excitement. "You did it, Mr. Mark. You made it work." "We did it, Leo," Mark corrected, ruffling the boy's hair. "You were a great assistant. Best flashlight holder I've ever had." Leo beamed, a genuine, unreserved smile that warmed Mark's tired heart. As Mrs. Henderson arrived to pick up her grandson and her now purring sedan, she thanked Mark profusely. Leo, still buzzing with excitement, eagerly recounted his role in the repair, much to his grandmother's amused surprise. She looked at Mark, a thoughtful expression on her face, but said nothing more than a simple, heartfelt thank you. Days later, the memory of Leo's curiosity and the unexpected joy of teaching still lingered with Mark. He was back in his garage, attempting to revive an old lawnmower engine, when a sleek, expensive car, far too fancy for his modest neighborhood, pulled up to the curb. A woman emerged, tall and elegantly dressed, with an air of quiet authority. Her dark hair was pulled back in a sophisticated bun, and her eyes, intelligent and piercing, scanned the small garage with an air of careful assessment. She walked towards him, her footsteps soft on the gravel. "Mr. Davies?" she asked, her voice clear and resonant. Mark, wiping his greasy hands on his overalls, nodded, feeling a flicker of apprehension. Had he forgotten a payment? Had someone complained about noise? "That's me, ma'am. Mark Davies." She offered a polite, almost imperceptible smile. "My name is Dr. Vivian Holloway. I'm Leo's aunt." Mark's eyebrows raised in surprise. He hadn't made the connection. He just knew Leo as Mrs. Henderson's grandson. "Oh, right. Leo's a great kid. Real curious." Dr. Holloway's smile widened slightly. "He certainly is. And he hasn't stopped talking about his time here, helping you with Mrs. Henderson's car. He said you explained everything, Mr. Davies, about how engines breathe and how spark plugs are like lightning." Mark felt a blush creep up his neck. Just trying to make it understandable for him. Kids learn better when they can relate it to something. "Indeed," Dr. Holloway replied, her gaze fixed on him, an intensity in her eyes that made him feel as though she was seeing straight into his soul. "Mr. Davies, I'm the director of the new National STEM Advancement Foundation. We're launching a national mentorship program for young people, designed to spark their interest in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We want to connect passionate, skilled individuals with the next generation." End quote. Mark blinked, trying to process her words. A national foundation? STEM? It sounded light years away from his greasy garage and perpetually struggling business. That's great, Dr. Holloway," he stammered. "But what does that have to do with me?" Dr. Holloway stepped closer, her voice lowering slightly, imbued with a persuasive conviction. "Everything, Mr. Davies. Leo's grandmother, my mother, told me about his experience with you. She said you didn't just fix a car. You ignited a spark in him. You have a gift for explaining complex concepts in a way that is accessible, engaging, and inspiring. That, Mr. Davies, is precisely what we need. We're looking for our lead instructor, someone who can connect with young minds, who can demystify the world of mechanics and engineering and show them the magic hidden within everyday machines." Mark stared at her, dumbfounded. A lead instructor for a national program? Him? A poor mechanic who sometimes struggled to pay his own bills? It felt like a bizarre dream, a sudden, impossible twist of fate brought about by a curious boy and a broken carburetor. He was a poor mechanic, but he had a passion, a deep, abiding love for his craft. And now, it seemed, that passion had been seen, truly seen, by someone who held the key to a future he could only have dreamed of. His life, he realized with a jolt, was about to change irrevocably. The offer from Dr. Vivian Holloway hung in the air of Mark's cluttered garage like the scent of fresh possibilities, completely alien and almost overwhelming. A lead instructor for a national STEM mentorship program. The words reverberated in his mind, starkly contrasting with the mundane reality of his daily struggle. For years, His world had been confined to the greasy underbellies of vehicles, the relentless pursuit of another repair job, another dollar earned. His passion for mechanics, once a blazing fire in his youth, had been dulled by the ceaseless grind of survival. Now, a woman with an air of quiet power and an impressive title was telling him he had a gift, a talent for inspiration. It felt surreal. "Dr. Holloway," Mark began, wiping his hands nervously on a rag that did little to clean them. "I appreciate the offer, truly, but I'm just a mechanic. I don't have degrees or fancy certifications. My classroom has always been, well, this garage." He gestured around the chaotic space, suddenly acutely aware of its grimy imperfections. Vivian Holloway's gaze swept over the garage again, taking in the worn tools, the carefully organized spare parts, the meticulous diagrams tacked to a corkboard. "And that, Mr. Davies," she replied, her voice firm but not dismissive, "is precisely why you are perfect. Our program isn't about rote learning or sterile classrooms. It's about practical application, about hands-on discovery, about igniting genuine curiosity. Your classroom is authentic. Your experience is invaluable. Formal degrees, while admirable, often lack the practical wisdom and passionate insight that you clearly possess." She took a step closer, her expression earnest. "Leo's reaction to your teaching was not an isolated incident, Mr. Davies. It was a clear demonstration of your unique ability to connect. We believe you can reach students who might be intimidated by traditional academic settings. You can show them that STEM isn't just about equations and textbooks. It's about solving real-world problems, about understanding the world around them, about innovation. It's about passion." End quote. Mark listened, a seed of possibility beginning to sprout in his mind, tentatively pushing aside years of self-doubt and ingrained humility. He remembered the pure joy on Leo's face, the way his eyes had lit up with understanding. That feeling, the satisfaction of imparting knowledge, of seeing a young mind grasp a complex concept, had been a revelation. Could he really do this? Could a simple mechanic, whose hands knew more about torque than treatises, inspire a new generation? What would it involve? He asked, his voice still hesitant, but tinged with a nascent curiosity. Vivian smiled, a genuine warmth emanating from her now. "Initially, it would be a pilot program, starting locally. We'd equip a mobile workshop, a specialized van, that you would take to schools, community centers, even after school clubs. You'd lead hands-on workshops, demonstrating basic mechanical principles, explaining simple circuits, even delving into robotics and sustainable energy, all explained through the lens of how things work." She paused, her gaze steady. "We'd provide all the materials, the curriculum framework, and the support staff. Your role would be to bring the magic." Magic, Mark almost snorted. His life had been anything but magical. But the idea of a mobile workshop, of sharing his knowledge beyond the confines of his small garage, began to excite him. He pictured eager young faces, hands-on experiments, the satisfying click of a concept understood. I don't know, Dr. Holloway," he said, still grappling with the enormity of the proposal. "It's a big step. My business here." He trailed off, gesturing vaguely at the tools, the unfinished work. Vivian followed his gaze, her expression softening. "We understand that this would be a significant transition. The foundation would offer a generous salary, far more substantial than your current earnings, to allow you to fully dedicate yourself to the program. And if the pilot program is successful, which I have no doubt it will be, this will expand nationally, with you at its helm. A generous salary." The words were like a siren song, promising stability, security, an end to the constant financial tightrope walk. It wasn't just about him anymore. It was about the possibility of a better life, a life where he could pursue his passion without the crushing weight of bills. Can I think about it?" Mark finally managed to say, his voice a little shaky. "Of course," Vivian replied, extending a hand to him. Her grip was firm and confident. "I'll leave you my card. Please consider it seriously, Mr. Davies. We genuinely believe you are the missing piece of our puzzle." And I know Leo would be thrilled. As Vivian Holloway's sleek car disappeared down the street, Mark stood amidst the familiar clutter of his garage, the scent of oil suddenly mingling with the fragrance of unexpected opportunity. He looked at his calloused hands, the grease beneath his fingernails, and then at Vivian's elegant business card. On it, in crisp, minimalist font, were her name, title, and the logo of the National STEM Advancement Foundation, a stylized gear intertwined with a sprouting leaf. The next few days were a whirlwind of introspection for Mark. He tried to focus on his current repairs, but his mind kept drifting to Vivian's offer. He thought about Leo's eager face, the genuine questions, the pure joy of discovery. He thought about all the young people out there who might be just like Leo, with latent curiosity waiting to be ignited, but without access to the right spark. He thought about his own youth, his early fascination with mechanics, the lack of mentors who could guide him beyond the practical application of his skills. He had taught himself, mostly, through trial and error, through sheer stubborn passion. He cleaned his garage, a task he usually put off, as if preparing for a new chapter. He dusted his old textbooks, dog-eared and oil-stained, filled with diagrams and formulas he had devoured years ago. He started sketching ideas for mobile workshop layouts, for hands-on experiments, for ways to make complex concepts simple and fun. The fire of passion, long banked by daily struggles, began to roar to life again. He knew it wouldn't be easy. He was a mechanic, not a public speaker or a curriculum developer. He would be stepping far outside his comfort zone. But the thought of inspiring young minds, of truly making a difference, overshadowed his apprehension. He called Vivian Holloway a few days later. His voice, though still a little nervous, held a newfound conviction. "Dr. Holloway, this is Mark Davies. I've thought about your offer, and I'm in." There was a genuine warmth in Vivian's voice. "Mr. Davies, that's excellent news. I knew you'd be the right fit. Welcome to the National STEM Advancement Foundation. We're going to do great things together." The conversation was brief, but it finalized the agreement. Mark felt a surge of exhilaration, followed by a wave of profound anticipation. He had spent his life fixing broken machines, bringing them back to life. Now, he was being given the chance to help fix a broken system, to ignite the engines of young minds, and to bring new life to his own stalled dreams. The poor mechanic had found his purpose, and the journey had only just begun. The transition from solitary mechanic to lead instructor for a national STEM foundation was, for Mark, akin to switching gears in a high-performance engine, exhilarating yet demanding a complete recalibration. The initial weeks were a whirlwind of meetings, workshops, and intensive learning. He was introduced to the dedicated team at the National STEM Advancement Foundation, a diverse group of educators, scientists, and project managers, all united by Vivian Holloway's visionary leadership. Vivian, it turned out, was a force of nature, a woman whose sharp intellect was matched only by her unwavering passion for empowering the next generation. She had built the foundation from the ground up, driven by a deep-seated belief that practical, hands-on learning was the key to unlocking potential in students, especially those from underserved communities. She saw in Mark not just a skilled mechanic, but a natural educator, a storyteller who could translate complex scientific principles into relatable, inspiring concepts. Mark was initially overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the operation. There were curriculum meetings, where he had to articulate his intuitive understanding of mechanics into structured lesson plans. There were presentations, where he had to speak to groups of passionate, educated individuals, a stark contrast to his usual conversations with sputtering engines. He often felt a pang of insecurity, acutely aware of his lack of formal academic credentials compared to Chinese letter AND PhD holders around him. But Vivian was his staunchest advocate. She saw his discomfort and immediately addressed it. "Mark," she told him during one of their early one-on-one sessions, her gaze unwavering, "your value lies precisely in your unique perspective. You bring the real world into our classrooms. Don't ever let anyone, especially yourself, tell you that your experience is less valid than a theoretical understanding. The kids need your authenticity." End quote. Her words resonated deeply. Mark realized that his strength lay in his practical knowledge, his ability to strip down an engine and explain its inner workings with dirt under the fingernails clarity. He began to embrace his role, drawing upon his years of hands-on experience to craft engaging, interactive lessons. He designed experiments that were intuitive and messy, that allowed kids to touch, dismantle, and rebuild. The flagship of the program, the mobile workshop, began to take shape. It was a custom-designed, state-of-the-art van, equipped with everything from miniature engine models and robotics kits to soldering stations and sustainable energy generators. Mark spent hours with the design team, ensuring every tool, every component, was practical and safe for young learners. This was his domain, his expertise, and he poured his heart into it. He meticulously organized the tools, ensuring they were accessible and easy to understand, reflecting his own organized chaos in his old garage. The pilot program launched in a local community center, in a bustling, diverse neighborhood, a stark contrast to the quiet suburban street where his old garage stood. Mark felt a mixture of nerves and exhilaration as the first group of students, ranging from 9 to 14 years old, streamed into the workshop. They were a mix of shy and boisterous, curious and skeptical. He started with something simple yet fundamental, a disassembled lawnmower engine. He laid out the parts on a large workbench, each component meticulously labeled. "All right, everyone," he announced, his voice surprisingly steady. "Today, we're going to build an engine, from scratch." A murmur of excitement rippled through the room. He explained the concept of combustion, using a simple balloon model to demonstrate air expansion. He showed them the piston, explaining how it moved up and down like a pump. He talked about the spark plug, using a miniature igniter to create a controlled spark. He used analogies they could understand. The engine as a mini factory, the fuel as its food, the spark plug as its match. He didn't just lecture, he invited them to participate. He had them hold parts, identify components, and even try to put together simple sub-assemblies. He moved among them, patiently answering questions, offering encouragement, and gently correcting mistakes. His hands, accustomed to the rough metal of engines, were surprisingly gentle as he guided a child's hesitant fingers. He saw it then, the same spark he had seen in Leo's eyes. It flickered in a shy girl who meticulously assembled a tiny gear train. It blazed in a boisterous boy who eagerly explained the principle of leverage. It ignited in a skeptical teenager who, after initially scoffing at the boring mechanics, became completely engrossed in wiring a simple circuit. The response was overwhelming. Parents and teachers marveled at the students' engagement, their newfound enthusiasm for subjects they had previously considered daunting. The community center buzzed with positive feedback. Students who had been disengaged in traditional classrooms were suddenly animated, asking complex questions, eager to learn more. Word of mouth spread like wildfire. Other community centers, schools, and even local businesses started inquiring about the program. The success of the pilot was undeniable. Mark, the poor mechanic, was becoming a local celebrity, an unlikely hero who was demystifying STEM and making it accessible to all. Vivian Holloway observed it all with quiet satisfaction. She saw the transformation in Mark, from hesitant mechanic to confident educator. She saw the impact he had on the students, igniting a passion that could change the trajectory of their lives. The gamble she had taken, placing her trust in an unconventional talent, had paid off beyond her wildest expectations. One evening, after a particularly successful workshop, Vivian found Mark packing up the mobile unit, a tired but content smile on his face. "You were incredible today, Mark," she said, her voice filled with genuine admiration. "The way you connected with that quiet girl, Anya. She practically built that entire circuit board by herself after you explained parallel circuits." Mark shrugged, a faint blush creeping up his neck. "Just tried to make it make sense. It's not just about the parts. It's about the purpose. You know? Why each piece matters." Vivian nodded, her eyes shining with pride. "Exactly. And that's your gift. That's why this program is going national. We're ready to scale. Mark. And you, without a doubt, are our national lead instructor." Your insights, your approach, will shape the future of STEM education for thousands of children across the country." Mark looked at her, the enormity of the statement sinking in. National. Thousands of children. His small, oil-stained garage felt 1,000,000 miles away. He had come so far, driven by a simple act of kindness, a curious boy, and a woman who saw potential where others saw only a humble mechanic. The engine of his own life, once sputtering, was now roaring, filled with a purpose far grander than he had ever dared to dream. The journey had been challenging, demanding, but the true reward was seeing the sparks of curiosity ignite in young minds, a legacy far more valuable than any fortune. The transition from a successful local pilot to a full-fledged national program was a monumental undertaking, demanding every ounce of Mark's dedication and Vivian Holloway's strategic genius. The National STEM Advancement Foundation, under Vivian's leadership, secured significant grants and partnerships, attracted a wealth of talent, and began to build the infrastructure necessary for a nationwide rollout. Mark found himself at the epicenter of it all, his quiet life as a mechanic irrevocably altered. His role expanded beyond just leading workshops. He became involved in curriculum development at a national level, his practical insights shaping the program's core philosophy. He helped train new instructors, sharing his unique pedagogical approach, emphasizing hands-on learning, intuitive explanations, and fostering genuine curiosity. He participated in conferences, speaking about the power of experiential learning, his unassuming sincerity and profound knowledge captivating audiences. He was no longer just a mechanic. He was a respected educator, a visionary in the field of STEM outreach. The media, always keen on human interest stories, picked up on Mark's unlikely journey. He was featured in magazines, interviewed on national television, and hailed as an inspiring figure. He remained grounded through it all, attributing his success to the dedicated team, to Vivian's belief in him, and to the inherent curiosity of the children he taught. He never forgot his roots, occasionally returning to his old garage to tinker with engines, a comforting ritual that kept him connected to the simple joy of working with his hands. Leo, now a bright and articulate 10-year-old, remained a constant source of inspiration. He was one of the first students to enroll in the extended foundation programs, his initial spark for mechanics blossoming into a passionate interest in robotics and sustainable energy. He would often visit Mark at the foundation's new, sprawling headquarters, a modern facility equipped with state-of-the-art labs and classrooms, a far cry from the dusty garage. Leo would assist Mark in testing new equipment, offering surprisingly astute observations. He became a living testament to the program's efficacy, a testament to Mark's unique teaching style. Mark and Vivian's professional relationship deepened into a strong, respectful friendship. They spent countless hours brainstorming, strategizing, and debating, their differing perspectives often leading to innovative solutions. Vivian admired Mark's unwavering authenticity, his ability to cut through academic jargon and speak directly to the heart of a concept. Mark, in turn, marveled at Vivian's intellectual prowess, her relentless drive, and her unwavering commitment to the Foundation's mission. They were a formidable team, a blend of practical genius and strategic vision. The national rollout of the mobile workshops was a resounding success. The Foundation's specially designed vans, emblazoned with the striking logo of the gear and the leaf, became familiar sights in communities across the country. Mark traveled extensively, overseeing launches, personally leading workshops in key cities, and connecting with students from diverse backgrounds. He taught in bustling urban centers, in remote rural towns, and on indigenous reservations, tailoring his approach to the specific needs and contexts of each community. He saw firsthand the transformative power of accessible STEM education, witnessing countless young minds ignite with curiosity and discover their own innate potential. One particular experience resonated deeply with Mark. He was leading a workshop in a small, economically disadvantaged town where resources were scarce and opportunities limited. The students, initially wary and skeptical, slowly opened up to his hands-on approach. He taught them how to build simple wind turbines from recycled materials, explaining the principles of aerodynamics and energy conversion. A quiet, unassuming girl named Maya, who had initially seemed disengaged, approached him after the workshop, her eyes shining with an intensity he recognized. "Mr. Davies," she whispered, holding a small, crudely constructed but functional wind turbine. "I want to be an engineer. I want to build things that can help my community, so we don't have to rely on what trough we have now." Her voice was filled with a nascent determination. Mark looked at her, his heart swelling with pride. "You can, Maya," he said, his voice firm and encouraging. "You absolutely can. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Keep learning, keep experimenting, and keep asking, how does it work?" He saw in her the same spark, the same hunger for knowledge that had driven him in his youth. It was moments like these that reaffirmed his purpose, that reminded him of the profound impact he was having. The foundation didn't just stop at workshops. Under Vivian and Mark's guidance, they developed scholarship programs, internships with leading tech companies, and mentorship initiatives that connected promising students with industry professionals. They created online resources, interactive simulations, and a vast library of open-source educational materials, making STEM education accessible beyond the physical reach of the mogul workshops. The foundation became a national force, a true catalyst for change. Years passed. The National STEM Advancement Foundation became a recognized leader in educational innovation, its impact undeniable. Mark Davies, the poor mechanic, was now a celebrated figure, his story an inspiration to millions. He had achieved a level of influence and respect he could never have dreamed of in his old garage. He had a comfortable life, free from financial worries, but his greatest wealth remained the sense of purpose and fulfillment he derived from his work. Vivian Holloway, his steadfast partner in this journey, continued to lead the foundation with unwavering dedication. Their friendship, forged in the crucible of shared ambition and mutual respect, was one of the most important relationships in Mark's life. She often reminded him of that first day, of Leo's note, of her initial gut feeling that he was the one. One day, Mark was at a grand gala, surrounded by philanthropists, industry leaders, and politicians, all celebrating the foundation's latest achievements. He looked across the opulent ballroom and saw Leo, now a confident young man in his early 20s, a recent engineering graduate from a prestigious university, talking animatedly with a group of industry professionals. Leo caught his eye and gave him a knowing smile, a silent acknowledgement of their shared beginning. Later that evening, as Mark stood by a large window, looking out at the city lights, Vivian joined him. "Quite a journey, wouldn't you say, Mark?" she mused, her voice soft. Mark smiled, a deep, contented smile. "More than I ever imagined, Vivian. All because a curious kid asked to hold a flashlight." He paused, his gaze thoughtful. "And because you saw something in a grease-stained mechanic that no one else did." Vivian placed a hand on his arm, her eyes warm. "You always had it in you, Mark. You just needed the right engine to ignite your own spark. And now, you're igniting sparks in thousands of others. That, my friend, is a legacy far greater than any empire." Mark looked at the bustling city, at the endless possibilities stretching before them. The humble mechanic, who once worried about fixing one car at a time, was now helping to build a future. One curious mind, one ignited spark, one transformed life at a time. His journey had been improbable, profound, and deeply fulfilling, proving that true value lies not in one's initial circumstances, but in the power of passion, the courage to embrace the unexpected, and the willingness to share one's unique light with the world. The success of the National STEM Advancement Foundation, under Mark and Vivian's joint leadership, far exceeded their initial projections. What began as a mobile workshop in local communities blossomed into a sprawling network of innovation hubs, virtual learning platforms, and comprehensive mentorship programs that reach students in every corner of the country. Mark's unique teaching methodology, emphasizing hands-on discovery and relatable analogies, became the blueprint for STEM education nationwide. He co-authored a series of best-selling educational books, simplifying complex engineering principles for young learners, and his online video tutorials garnered millions of views. He dedicated a significant portion of his time to advocating for accessible education. Speaking before congressional committees, advising policymakers, and championing initiatives that ensured every child, regardless of their socioeconomic background, had the opportunity to explore the wonders of STEM. His story, the journey of a humble mechanic becoming a national educational icon, resonated deeply with the public, inspiring a wave of grassroots movements aimed at fostering practical learning in schools. Vivian Holloway, his unwavering partner, continued to be the strategic mastermind behind the foundation's expansion. She navigated complex funding landscapes, forged international partnerships, and built a formidable team of experts who shared their vision. Her quiet brilliance and relentless dedication were the bedrock upon which the foundation's global impact was built. She always made sure to highlight Mark's contributions, ensuring he received the recognition he deserved, even as he remained remarkably humble amidst the accolades. Leo, now a thriving university student, often interned at the foundation during his breaks. He was a natural leader, already developing innovative solutions in renewable energy. He frequently credited Mark with igniting his passion, often telling interviewers, "Mr. Mark didn't just teach me how an engine works, he taught me how the world works and how I could make a difference in it." Their bond had evolved from mentor-mentee to a deep familial connection. Leo was like a son to Mark, a living testament to the legacy he was building. Mark found immense satisfaction not just in the large-scale impact, but in the individual success stories. He meticulously followed the journeys of countless students who had passed through the Foundation's programs. He celebrated their college acceptances, their entrepreneurial ventures, their scientific breakthroughs. He saw them, diverse and brilliant, stepping into fields that had once seemed unattainable, all because a spark had been ignited in them, often by his own hands-on lessons. He knew that the ripple effect of their work would be felt for generations. Despite his national prominence, Mark deliberately maintained a sense of normalcy in his personal life. He still lived in his modest home, though he had completely rebuilt and modernized his old garage, turning it into a pristine, high-tech workshop where he could still tinker with engines, purely for the joy of it. He maintained his close friendships within his old neighborhood, often offering informal advice or a helping hand with car troubles, never forgetting where he came from. One particularly rewarding project saw Mark collaborating with a team of engineers and educators to design and implement a sustainable energy system for remote indigenous communities. He traveled to these communities, working directly with local residents, teaching them how to build and maintain solar panels and small-scale wind turbines, empowering them with the skills to create their own energy, independence. It was a tangible application of everything he believed in, a perfect fusion of practical mechanics and social impact. He felt a profound sense of fulfillment, knowing that his skills were directly contributing to improving lives. During these field trips, Vivian often accompanied him, observing his interactions with the communities. She saw how effortlessly he connected with people from all walks of life, his genuine respect and unassuming demeanor making him universally liked and trusted. She realized that Mark's ability to teach stemmed not just from his knowledge, but from his inherent empathy, his deep understanding of human needs and aspirations. The relationship between Mark and Vivian, too, deepened with each passing year. Their shared vision for the foundation, their mutual respect, and their complementary skills had forged an unbreakable bond. They were collaborators, confidants, and dearest friends. While their lives remained primarily focused on their professional mission, there was an undeniable warmth and intimacy in their interactions, a quiet understanding that transcended formal titles. They had navigated countless challenges together, celebrated countless triumphs, and through it all, their admiration for each other only grew. One evening, after returning from a successful trip to launch a new STEM center, Mark and Vivian found themselves in the transformed attic of Mark's home, now a cozy, light-filled space with comfortable armchairs and shelves, overflowing with books on engineering, education, and human development. "Do you ever pinch yourself, Mark?" Vivian asked, a faint smile playing on her lips as she looked at him. From that small, oil-stained garage to all of this. She gestured vaguely to the impressive articles framed on the wall. The awards, the photographs of eager young faces. Mark chuckled, a warm, genuine sound. More often than you'd think, Vivian, especially when I'm still trying to get a particularly stubborn bolt to loosen. He looked around the room, his gaze lingering on a framed picture of a young Leo holding a flashlight, eyes wide with curiosity, standing next to a younger, grimier version of himself. It all started with that curious kid, didn't it? Just wanting to know how things work. Vivian nodded, her eyes soft. It did. And you, Mark, you showed him. And then you showed thousands of others. You truly are a master of ignition. Mark met her gaze, a profound sense of peace settling over him. And you, Vivian, you provided the fuel, the spark, and the vision to make it all possible. We built something incredible, together. The silence that followed was comfortable, filled with unspoken appreciation and shared history. The journey had been long, unexpected, and transformative. The poor mechanic, who had once simply shown a kid how engines worked, had become the architect of a nationwide movement, proving that sometimes the greatest engines of change are ignited not by grand design, but by the smallest act of kindness and the unwavering belief in the potential of every curious mind. His life was a testament to the idea that true success is measured not by wealth, but by the number of lives one touches, the sparks one ignites, and the future one helps to build. He had found his purpose, and in doing so, had created a legacy that would continue to inspire for generations to come.